Exploring the African narrative, leading the conversation, and enlightening our listener towards a profitable Africa.
They are 1.8 billion globally. They will make 75% of workforce by 2025. They will outspace earnings of baby boomers in less than 10 years. Smartphones and tablets are the argument settlers and fact checkers for every conversation. Get more insights on African millennials on Africa Business Radio towards a profitable Africa.
All right, guys, how are we doing? It's that Friday where you're happy that, okay, we're down into a new month and then things are happening, salaries are being paid, and it's the first test or the first week of the first test of a new month. And I hope everybody's making money at least. How are my guys in Ghana, guys in Zimbabwe, the guys in Egypt? Does anybody from Egypt listen to this show? It's the African Millennial Radio Show again, and it's Tommy Wale, and I have... my guest this afternoon is a whole company. I mean, I think the next thing is going to happen is going to have a whole country, the president of a country in this place. I have the Hook NG and the Hook Creative Agency. I don't want to call them the Hook NG, the Hook Creative Agency. And if you know what I say all the time, I say that whatever I do in Lagos is what Nigerians talk about, and whatever I do in Nigeria is what Africa wants to talk about. So if you take it back, whatever I do in Lagos is what Africa wants to talk about. And the Hook Creative Agency is one of the best creative agencies out of Lagos. So we're talking about one of the best creative agencies in Africa. Thank you for coming on the African Millennial Radio Show, guys.
Thank you.
And I have Sam, who is the managing director of the Hook NG, and Onyinye, who is the copywriter at the Hook NG. So a brief introduction or a brief summary or profile about the Hook Creative Agency. The creative agency is not an above the line, below the line, or a digital creative agency. They are whatever the solution to your brand's challenge needs them to be, right? They give a creative mix of insights and brand message to make an impactful idea that will get the audience's attention. Hook goes beyond the surface to find the universal human truth as it relates to your brand. So you can see all of that about Hook NG. You can go on their website. That's thehook.ng, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, the Hook Creative Agency has this very, very good reports on Gen Z, but they call it the Gen D, and we're going to ask questions about why they call it the Gen D later on. So we've always had conversations about baby boomers, about Gen X, about millennials, but then there is the Gen Z. And if you think that 18-year-old or that 17-year-old is a millennial, no, they are not actually. They belong to the Gen Z or the Zoomers. These guys are very, very, they're audacious. They will ask you why. We millennials would at least listen to you and maybe go into our rooms and grumble, about why. But then they are not going anywhere to grumble. They'll ask you. So tell us why. What's up with your tradition? And I have the Hook NG here to talk about them and to talk about the report. And I think it's going to be a very, very interesting time. So get your staff, your colleague at work, get everybody, and then let's have a very wonderful time on the African Millennial Radio Show. So, Sam, what was the gap, or what did everybody at the office see that made the Hook NG go into creating this report? Okay. What was the problem? Yeah.
Okay, first of all, I'll start like this. So I have a favorite quote that I actually really like. So it goes like this: says, we employ smart people for them to tell us what to do, not for us to tell them what to do. What's happened so far is that the people at the Hook, the team at the Hook, had realized that the way brands are being consumed is evolving, and it was time for brands and companies to start seeing the next generation of consumers as very important in their marketing strategies and how they want to market their products or speak about their brand. So this was what led to the insights for creating this white paper that would help people understand the importance of this generation of consumers, which is the Zoomers. We have called it the Gen D because we have categorized them as the digital and the democracy consumers. They're the guys who essentially would want to ensure that everything, all their opinions are heard and are heard firmly. So that's what's happened at the Hook. So we have just said, okay, you know what? It's time to develop this white paper and cater to this next generation of consumers.
So now I want to ask this question, right? There's something about history when it comes to what baby boomers are, what Gen X, what they are, what millennials are. If you're going to give some history about what Gen Z is about, what would you like to say about that? We want Onyinye to answer that. Or
She can.
Okay.
Okay, so Gen Zs are an evolved set of people. And like we said in our reports, each era comes with different people. I mean, we've agreed that time people come, people go, and then people come again. It will just be unwise to be totally foolhardy of the existing people, to not take time to study the psychology, the thinking process, so to speak, of the coming people, of the new set of people, because they are the ones that you're going to tailor your services to. You cannot just design a product because you feel inspired by a personal need, right? It has to be designed according to an existing problem, and you cannot know the problem if you do not observe, if you do not learn these people. And so that's why, like he said, that's why we need to put this information out there about the Gen Z, their profile, who they are, what makes them tick. I mean, there's only so much that we can say, right? But in the end, even amongst themselves, they still have their own uniqueness, they still have their own difference. But let's not be oblivious of some of the obvious things that are associated with these guys.
Okay, that's very, 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 very important, because I remember when the whole conversation about millennials started in 2015, 2016. These were some of the things, and some of the things that were also highlighted was millennials would control spending power in less than a decade. So I think that decade is going to be done by maybe 2025. But then millennials are the ones with the energy on the internet, are getting married and trying to take care of their kids now. So you don't have all that energy anymore. You have new folks, coming to the scene to get things done. So next thought is this: millennials, right? Energy, as everybody has said. What are the differences right now between millennials and Gen Z? Right? Is it that they are energy? Right now, millennials are energy. What are their differences?
Okay. I'm going to attempt to answer this question. So the millennials. So I'm not going to say that the Gen Zs don't hold on to values that has been instilled from the past. So what's happened so far is that because they are more opinionated, these are the generation of people that necessarily are not caged by sciences or any form of religious biology. These are the generation that pretty much would customize their agenda and add a pronoun to it. This is the generation that are super opinionated. So they're very different from the millennials. Now, the millennials are pretty much driven by values. And I would say that it's not like they're not opinionated, but they tend to just try to be more carefully. They tend to watch their opinions, and they're not as opinionated as the Gen Zs. And that's because of pretty much the era they're coming from. It's important to know that the Gen Zs are actually the ones that are about to take over. And these guys we the millennials are just really getting to the back and just watching them move.
So if you're going to look at this, I would say the parents of the millennials are the baby boomers, hybrid Gen X-ish.
The Gen X,
So who are the parents of the Gen Z? I think they're Gen X.
Let me attempt to, Sam said. So the thing is, what I've observed is that their parents, though they might fall within the bracket of Gen X guys, they also happen to be privy to this digital what will I call it, experience that we are going through right now.
Okay.
Compared to our parents, so they saw us as rebellious and talking back at them and rude because they were not willing to evolve with us, even when the world was evolving, right? So as much as we millennials grew up in two parts, right? So at first it was that everything was analog. We did not have so much help. There was no internet. It was just our minds, our curiosities, and then our parents and any other older person that could help us. But at some point, we started becoming independent thanks to the internet. We could Google things, we could find out things for ourselves.
Yeah.
And so that independence made us look like rebellious people because it affected the relationship that we would have had with our parents.
Okay.
Now, it's not the case for Gen Zs because their parents seem cool, are actually cooler because they are learning the internet with them. So where a millennial's parents would have probably picked up the slippers to stone you or something, a Gen Z's parents would probably just talk it out with you. Do you understand? So you can't relate to that kind of thing. Most of us can't relate to that kind of thing because they're like, how your parents can't, how we be talking with them? Like there was no seeing eye to eye. So I think that's where the difference started from their upbringing. So it encouraged how voiced they are about their opinions. Millennials, on the other hand, because they've already been tagged rebels, it affected how much they could say. Not like they didn't have the opinions; they were strongly opinionated. But let me have respect.
So that's what I was trying to say. So they're a bit more cautious. So the Gen X parents are pretty much the people between 1965 to like 1980. Yeah, that's the Gen X. So I'm going to say, okay, so 1965, 1970 something, those are like the Peter Duce generation. Like they're pretty much really old. So from 1980 down are now privy to the digital space. So they can even see that their child don't need them directly to learn anymore. Do you understand? And so they are more in tune with their child actually preaching to them, teaching them stuff and saying, oh, you know what, this is how it's done, and they'll go and check it themselves. But the 1965, 1960, when you tell them stuff, they say, no, this is how it was done in our time. So it's pretty much it's a lot different. So
would you say millennials crawled so Gen Z could fly?
I mean, I will not disagree with that.
We took all the brushing for them.
I swear. We broke down the wall so they could see through the world.
Yes.
I mean, let's just say it like that.
Okay, now, of course, they're going to grow. They're going to be done with school, and then they need to work, right? What are your thoughts, right? Or let me say it this way: is there any expectations? Is there any workforce expectations for the Gen D? No. So wait, I'm coming. Gen Z. Who Kenji? Sorry, before we continue, why do you call it Gen D?
Okay, so that was what I tried to explain at the beginning. Yeah. So it's the democratic and digital generation.
Putting this into the airspace now. It's the democratic and digital generation. Gen D.
Yeah, that's why we've called them Gen D. So yes, they're the Zoomers, but at the same time,
they have true digital native.
Right. Okay. So, what are your expectations, or what do you think organizations should look out for, especially when it comes to getting human resource that will be Gen D populated?
So, I think that organizations should try to be as human as possible, because if we're saying that they are Zoomers, it means that you cannot just give them big English, so to speak, like company language, business language, just because you want to, bamboozle them. You really will not be successful like that. So if you're going to humanize your brand, it means that it will affect your speak. It would affect the kind of visuals you put out there. It would affect even the kind of products and the product design, because you are now like incorporating their person, their values, their interests, right, into your work, which is what they look out for. They want to see that you are authentic. You're not just saying, you're not using selective market epithets to just get their attention. Do you understand? Like, it's something that you need to drill through to them to get like thorough brand loyalty, because they are big on truth. So don't lie, because I mean they will find you, they will drag you, and that's the end. You don't play.
Yeah. So just to add to what she said, the same thing that works for employees is also the same thing that should work for brands.
Right.
This generation want to be carried along.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Did you said something around this the last what's it called? In the last edition. You talked about the fact that he was talking to millennials, talking about millennials anyway. He said that they want to express themselves. Yeah. Anyway, so sorry to cut you there.
Yeah, so it's fine. So they want to be carried along. They want to be carried along through the entire process.
Right.
You're trying to evolve your structure in the company. You want to speak to them. You want to ask them what they think. You want to ask them what they're doing that's not currently working and what they want to actually do that's working for them. You're coming up with a new product. You want to send surveys. You want to ask them what they like. They just want to see that they are part of the product, you have actually catered to their truth, what they believe in. It's pretty much what they want to see. So as long as you show that you genuinely care about their feelings, they're big on their feelings. As long as you show that you care about their feelings, they will be your ride or die.
Okay. So briefly, we're going to go on a short break now, but before then, what can you maybe throw some light on the democratic part of these guys? Because I understand digital, but then what do you mean by democratic?
So if you notice in the report, rather than starting
guys, go on hook.ng, thehook.ng / Gen D to download the report. It's a simple download. Just put your name and email address and you have it, and you can enjoy this conversation a whole lot more. Okay,
so if you notice in the report, there was a part where we talked about so it's like this. Instead of starting from 1995, right, which is where most people peg the beginning of the Gen Z or Gen D, we started from 1999. Because if you think about it, you're still young. There's no like such tangible expression between from 1995. And they were saying democratic because that was when it was a huge turning point, so to speak, in Nigeria, in the Nigerian government, because that was when democracy started. Yeah. And with democracy comes expression. Yeah. With democracy comes a higher level of freedom compared to the military era, which these people will probably just study about in textbooks or online when they're talking about Nigerian history. They did not experience this thing firsthand. And so as much it's something that affects the behavioral pattern, because they were born into that space of freedom of expression. So whatever it is that's going to inhibit their expression is something that will totally take them off. It's like black staining a white wall. It will stand out. It's noisy. It's distracting. So that's why they do not understand why you would, for instance, come out and say you want to start regulating people's expression on social media. Anything that's stifling like that, they react.
Wow. So just to add to that, so this is actually a generation that did not go and queue in front of the Nitel stand to make international phone calls. This is a generation that everything is done with their thumbs, done with their phones, and they can actually see that. They can see the joy in freedom of speech. You're not going to come and curtail them. You're not going to come and put them in a wall. They want to speak. So that is the reason why we have tagged that democratic rule, because they're actually the ones that have embraced fully the power of freedom of speech, unlike the millennials. Because during our time, we actually saw the way social media sprung. A lot of artists who do not benefit from social media, a lot of celebrities who do not benefit from social media. But look at the generation of artists and celebrities that are actually benefiting from this social media. You see that they're actually doing way better than the other generations. So that's why we've tagged them democratic. That's why we've tagged them digital, because they are the guys who have actually explored that space to the fullest capacity. Okay,
cool. You know what, guys? Let's go on a very, very short break, and then we'll be back for more conversations on the Gen D with the Hook Creative Agency. See you in a bit.
Please listen to this public service announcement on preventive measures against the spread of coronavirus.
all Nigerians should take care of their health and maintain hand and respiratory hygiene to protect themselves and others, including their own families, following the precautions. 1. Regular and thorough washing of hands with soap and water and use of alcohol-based hand sanitizer. 2. Maintain at least 1.5 meter 5 feet distance between yourself and anyone who is coughing or sneezing. 3. Persons with persistent cough or sneezing should stay home or keep a social distance, nor mix up with crowds. 4. Make sure you and people around you follow good respiratory hygiene, meaning cover your mouth and nose with a tissue or cough into your sleeve at the bent elbow or tissue when you cough or sneeze. Then, dispose of the used tissue immediately. 5. Stay home if you feel unwell with symptoms like fever, cough, and difficulty in breathing. Do not engage in self-medication. Please call the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and CDC toll-free line, which is available 24/7 for guidance. 0800 970 300.
This message is powered by Africa Business Radio.
We are the wind in the sails of your business. We are your compass. Chart your course towards your targets. Africa Business Radio. Toward a profitable Africa.
Right. So, for millennials, right, there's a difference between millennials in Nigeria and Africa and millennials in the West. Right. I mean, there are some things that they just do that we don't. We have to think twice, right, before we get it done. Now, do you think there's a difference between the Gen D/Z in Nigeria or Africa and the guys in the West?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and what are these differences? What do you
Jen, go first.
Okay, yes. So, as much as these guys are expressive, as much as they seem to be anti-norm, anti-society, it's that at the end of the day, there's still something powerfully stifling about society, right? Which is what they are going through, one way or another. So, I think that it's kind of limiting them to a particular space where a lot of them end up as social media influencers, because that's like the first medium or the closest medium of the height of expression that they really want, because the environment itself is not very enabling, right? So they might have other things that they want to do, other crazy ideas that they want to bring to the fore, but the country being the way it is, technology being at the level that it is, it's still limiting to them. So if you place them side by side, the Gen Z abroad, those ones are in a much more enabling environment. So it's like they are operating with a superpower of think and do. Here you have to think, cancel the thoughts, think another thoughts, and then you now start deliberating whether or not you can do, because you are weighing the possibilities of this thing.
Absolutely.
Do you understand? And then you still have, your parents still have a huge influence over you, as much as they are encouraging and cool right now. Unlike abroad, I mean, you can just have one idea, one toddler, or rather maybe one teenager can just have one idea, and you just start doing it on your own, and it's coming out. Next thing you hear that these people are CEOs, obviously they call them Gen CEOs, right? I mean, it's a real thing. It's a real thing, because one of our creative directors, Bayo Oshina, he's experienced these people firsthand, and so when he with that insight, like people abroad and then Gen Z's here, it's clear the limiting factors that we have. So that limitation affects the characteristics of the Nigerian Gen D when placed side by side the ones abroad.
Well, Simon, let's say something about it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the disturbing factors about Gen Z here is the fact that they're having to do more talking digitally. So they're having to speak more of their truth online and be more outspoken online because of the kind of environment that they're being limited to. While abroad, what happens is that for everything that they want to be involved in, they're able to do it because the environment is more enabling. The Gen Zs here, and that's why you have to actually respect them. These are the guys that are still in school and working 2 jobs. They're going back to class, they're doing their exams, and they're still having to work 2 jobs. And still coming out to say their truth and how they want to be seen and how they want to be heard. It's more difficult for the Gen Zs here in this part of the world, just because of the economy, because the market is not free enough for them to operate, and things like that. Rewards are not basically given to them because of intellectual property. Rewards are given to them through who they know or who has more connection and stuff like that. It's totally different from the Gen Zs abroad because those guys are being rewarded for their intellectual prowess. So yeah, the Gen Zs over here in this part of the world are actually going through more stuff.
It go better.
Amen.
Now, workforce, my business has to move forward. I want to be relevant in 2030, right? There's no way I'm not going to have a lot of Gen Z guys, right, in my organization. So there was the thought about millennials being in boardrooms right now to help organizations make relevant decisions or decisions that be relevant to time. So with Gen Z right now, I'm an organization, right, and I'm talking to Sam, I'm talking to Onyinye. What are the things you think I should really start putting into consideration when it comes to Gen D or Gen Z so that I can bring them? Because my organization right now, I'm just speaking hypothetically, what's that word? I have Gen X in my organization, I have millennials, and I'm having Gen Z. It's going to be a nightmare for my HR to know how to balance different traits right now. So what would you say to me right now about bringing these guys in and how I can utilize them?
So how I'm going to answer that? So first thing, it would be nice to know.
That's cool on the beat.
Okay, so first thing, it would be nice to know what the plans for the organization is. Now, is it a company that wants to evolve over time? Is it a company that is already set in stone? Now, some companies are set in stone, and even when you tell them that, okay, it's time to start employing this new generation of consumers, this new generation of employees, they're still like, oh no, they don't have enough experience and that. So it's always important to know if you're ready to evolve as a company. If you're ready to evolve as a company, then you start recruiting this new generation of consumers that are able to take your brand to the next level and are bold enough to question decisions and probe every thesis that you think has been working over the years. Probe every thesis that you think has been working over the years, because what's happening is that some people just are cast in stone in the way their processes and structure work. And when they see anyone who comes and tries to probe it, they feel like, oh, this is not how we used to do things here.
Wow, man. Yeah. Guys, thank you for coming on the African Millennial Radio Show. If you want to get this report, guys, go on thehook.ng/Gen D. That's thehook.ng/Gen D. On Instagram, the Instagram account, social media account is at thehookng, right? Get the reports. Ask questions from Sam and Onyinye. Ask for Onyinye via their DM and ask for Sam via the DM.
And also leave your feedbacks too. We'll take your feedbacks.
And then don't forget to go on getupping.com to take the African Millennial Report survey. It's going to be launched in a bit. We say this on every show that you should go on the website to take the survey. So yeah, go and take it. All right. On this note, I think it's been a very wonderful 30 minutes with the guys from the Hook Creative Agency. Right. Enjoy your Friday afternoon. Enjoy your Friday evening. Don't do more than what you can do. Right. Enjoy your weekend. And yeah, go on africabusinessradio.com to listen to more editions of the African Millennial Radio Show. All right then, guys. Bye for now.